Let's find Carol. She's been meeting with a group of local pastoralists at the homestead of Florence and Ruben to find out how to develop a management plan.
That's right, Tony. Florence and Ruben are part of a local pastoralist management committee. Now, to draw up a management plan, the first step must be to understand all the resources the rangeland has to offer. To do this, the pastoralist institution maps the rangeland to know which resources are where, and then what value each resource has to the people using the rangeland. This helps them to plan how to use these resources. This information can now be easily shared across the community with pastoralists in neighboring areas and with government or other stakeholders. Quite how they're going to do this, I'm not so sure. All they seem to have here are these leaves and cut branches and this pile of old stones. But fear not. To help explain everything, we have Irene Alo Mukalo, who is also from Reconcile.
It looks like you're preparing for a riot. Irene, I can see stones, I can see thorns, I can see...
No.
What's happening?
We are having these materials because they'll be helping us to map our resources, to understand our area. We agree together to identify, for instance, if we have lakes, what exactly do we want to use to identify a lake with? If we have those blue strings, we know water is depicted in blue color.
Yes.
So can we use that to show our rivers? We have the ashes here.
All right.
So this ash will be using to show the boundaries of the space within which this particular conservancy is found. Now, these rocks will represent the hills that we have around here and the caves.
Okay.
And then you see we have some leaves around here. So the leaves will signify either forest, vegetation, a swamp. So we'll be using this to show different resources that we have in the area.
Wow, this is very clever.
Yeah. And you're going to do the map right here so that we are able to have every person involved.
All right.
Yes.
So are we ready to start the work?
Yes. We shall draw the map of Irong Community Conservancy. Our conservancy covers 5 locations. We shall try to identify all resources we have covering the entire conservancy.
Now, as the group begins to map out their communal lands, I wanted to ask Ruben and Florence why this project was needed.
The land was bare, facial erosion, and we did not know the resources that we have. We had the indigenous animals, cattle, goats, because pasture was not there.
You had soil erosion and you had problems with pasture.
Yes.
Florence, are there others? Drought.
Yeah. Scarcity of water.
All right. So Irene, why is it important to map out our resources?
One, we get to understand what is it that we have as a community that would sustain our livelihoods. These resources are directly linked to the livelihoods of the people. Two, this mapping exercise only happens at the beginning of this particular process. We define, for instance, the grazing areas, okay? We get to identify where do we have the watering points, where do we have the salt licks, the different key resources that inform our livelihoods. And in doing that, then it further helps us to identify what are the challenges that are also affecting or impacting on these resources in a manner that they're either getting degraded or we are losing some of these resources. So it is important that we also get to understand that. And 3, this mapping exercise also helps us to walk through planning, sharing of resources as we move along.
All right, good.
Very interesting. And look, I can see the river going in over there. Now I wonder, who decides which resources are important?
The community is also represented by different groups. We have the youth, we have the elderly, we have the women, we have the children, and all these people have a role and an interest that they also represent in this use and access of resources. And so it is important that all this is brought together. And that is why we are having this participatory process of mapping and identifying these resources so that we get to understand the different players around and within the community.
All right. Yeah. And I love that part, participatory, involving. Everyone is integrated, you are involved.
Yes.
So it's for all of us.
Yes.
So when the map is finished, the local pastoralist institution creates a rangeland management plan. This includes the grazing plan, the land use plan, rules and bylaws to enforce the management plan, and ways to restore the degraded land. So you know what's good, Tony? The management plan uses the pastoralist's local knowledge and practices that have been used over the years
So they get facilitators from NGOs and the local government to help them adapt this plan to the problems of climate change and land degradation.
It's important all sections of the community are heard and can play a part in forming the management plan, so everyone's interests are represented. In the past, women, for instance, have not been included. Now, how important is it that their voices are heard?
Women also play a critical role, and this is why we need to involve them. They are also users of these resources. They know the resources where they are, and the different seasons within which you can also place these resources. And so building on their knowledge also enhances the management of these resources. So they would tell you that, no, we don't want these trees destroyed because we can use them to get our medicine, we can use them to get fruits for our children during these seasons, you see. Then this is information that comes in handy, that helps us to define how we are going to use these resources and share the resources amongst the different users.
Right.
I'll give, for example, a tree could represent different uses to the different users. One may look at it as from a man who has his cattle and his goats and he wants them fed. He looks at it and he sees, well, this is fodder. A woman looks at the same tree and my children need to feed, so this is firewood. So these are different, interests that we have around these resources, and hence the need to negotiate and agree on how to manage these resources so that we also get to meet the different interests.
We thought we are less, we cannot do like men, but now we can also work together.
Now, once we've done this map on the ground, we transfer this to a chart. That becomes a permanent record of this process. So from that chart, we'll always be having discussions, because these are a process that is informed by a lot of dialogue and conversation with the community.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now the whole community can benefit from these shared resources.